Hey everyone, it's Lindsay with High Altitude Astrology. I wanted to let you know that the video you're about to see is only going to be the audio of my recording of Mercury in the sign of Taurus. Something happened unexpectedly, Moon in Cancer sextiling Uranus, the unexpected, in Taurus, and the video didn't record, but the audio did. So something new and different today, but hopefully you'll still gain a lot from it. Thanks so much for watching. Hey everyone, it's Lindsay with High Altitude Astrology. And today I am going to be bringing you a video about Mercury moving into the sign of Taurus. And this happened today, April 27th, 2020 at 1:52 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So Mercury has to do with how we communicate. Mercury has to do with how we reason. It has to do with logic. It has to do with gathering of information and facts in our immediate environment in order to help us make decisions. Mercury is what they call the messenger of the gods. So it does have some role in informing us, but it is through this kind of rational logic way of doing so. And from Paul Grell's Keywords book, he says about Mercury, with the reasoning mind, we are self-conscious, aware of the activities in the world about us. We are able to perceive and evaluate thought and action, to observe cause and effect, action and reaction. Mercury is the link of communication, inwardly the link of reason between spirit and form. Externally, the senses permit communication between ourself and others. Through reason, man has freedom of choice, is responsible for his own acts, has the opportunity for self-conscious advancement and growth, is aware of his divine origin and potentiality. So those are some explanations of what Mercury is. Now, some of the ways that Mercury can be expressed are reason as brilliance or skepticism, the mental function where we learn quickly or we're kind of worrisome. We're expressive, meaning we're articulate, or we're verbose, too much. We're adaptable, as in versatile or unstable. Duality, discriminate or indecisive. Small things, preciseness or critical. Senses, awareness or over-impressionable. Analytic, which is observant or inquisitive. Unemotional, resourceful, or nervous. And education, refinement or superiority complex. So you can see the various aspects of Mercury as it can be expressed in its various ways. Now, Mercury is going to be in the sign of Taurus for the next 2 weeks approximately, because Mercury kind of zips through the zodiac pretty quickly. So it moves through a sign like Taurus, for example, in 2 weeks. Sometimes if it goes retrograde, you will have it in a sign for a lot longer. Mercury in Taurus. Now, Mercury is an air or symbolizes air in the sense that it rules an air sign, which is Gemini, but it also rules an earth sign, Virgo. So Mercury is not necessarily unfamiliar with the earth energy, and that's what Taurus is. It is earth, but it has to find a way kind of to express itself in a more grounded way. And I guess you could maybe say that this expression of Mercury in Taurus could be some of the more kind of sense-oriented expression of Mercury, where we're kind of taking in information and we're sensing things, we're paying attention to what's coming in, and also how, we may be receiving information and kind of rationalizing it and then putting it out there. So in that way, Mercury does function in the earth energy in the sense that it has to kind of do something with information. It has to use it and find it useful. That's very much what Taurus is about. Taurus is very practical, grounded. Taurus is very sensual because it's ruled by the sign of the planet of Venus. And so you get then with the two together, this kind of logical reasoning process in this very grounded, very sensual, very earthy, wanting to appreciate the beauties of life. Taurus can be a very creative and artistic energy. So you get the feeling of what Mercury and Taurus, how it might be expressed. You know, there's the logic, the communication, the reasoning is very practical. It's very sensible. It's very simple to a certain extent. It doesn't want to make things very complicated. You know, it's pretty matter of fact in the sense that it kind of just knows what it feels, you know, or knows what it likes, or knows what feels good to it. That's very much Taurus. So we're going to get this kind of slowing down energy of Mercury and Taurus for the next couple of weeks, which is a welcomed relief because we've had Mercury in the sign of Aries, and it's just been a lot of like ideas and thoughts and perhaps some, you know, sort of reactionary communication with people, but just sort of a hyper accelerated expression of the mercurial nature. And now we're in Taurus. It's like we're downshifting, or we're even putting it into neutral, and we're just sort of gliding through the Mercury in Taurus time that we're going to be going into. It's actually a really nice vibe. It's a really pleasant energy where we can just slow down, smell the roses metaphorically, and really kind of ground into the beauty of our surroundings, of the people and relationships in our lives, and just slow it down. You know, that's really what Taurus can help us do. Slow it down and begin to appreciate more. Now, some things that might be coming up, because Taurus does connect to finances since it's ruled by Venus. Venus is the planet of money. So there could be some serious thought going into how we want to look at our financial situation, and practical ideas, practical understanding about how to move forward in order to create financial security for us in our life, because that's very much what Taurus is about. It wants to feel secure in the material world. And what does that look like for ourselves at this point? Taurus is also, like I said, related to relationships, again, because it's ruled by Venus. So this could be communicating in our relationships at this point, you know, and having some kind of solid, grounded approach to how we want to dialogue in our relationship with others. And some of this, you know, need to talk and need to be very practical is because what's happened is that we had our new moon in Taurus on the 22nd of April, and that new moon was very much closely conjunct Uranus in the sign of Taurus. So this new moon has stirred up a lot of change, a lot of awakening around Taurian themes of money, finances, relationships, our personal values. That's very much a Taurian quality too. Like, what has meaning to us, you know? And Uranus and Taurus, as I talked about in that new moon video, has and will continue for the next 6 years to upgrade or elevate or progress or evolve our relationship to the material world. And what I mean by that is that it's going to help kind of shake us loose from this Taurian attachment to materialism. And so this new moon that happened in Taurus right near Uranus suggests that this new moon cycle that's happening right now is bringing up some of these changes that we may be beginning to look at regarding the material world, regarding what is valuable to us, regarding our relationships. And so now with Mercury, the thinking and communicating piece of things is also in the sign of Taurus. And later on, as it journeys through Taurus, it's going to do a few more things with other planets, and I want to go over those. But what I'm talking about right now is that this Mercury in Taurus is going to help ground our thinking a little bit more in this process of sort of these new values that we're incorporating, or new ways of looking at our relationships, or new ways of looking at making money in our lives, or new ways of looking at how we're relating to the material world, and incorporating this new way of relating to the material world into our life. So what's going to happen is that on the 28th of April, Mercury is going to make a square to Saturn in Aquarius. And Saturn in Aquarius, this is also some of this loosening up of attachment to the material, because Uranus, like I said, which is in the sign of Taurus, actually rules the sign of Aquarius. And so Saturn is in this sign that Uranus rules, Uranus currently being in Taurus. So what this is saying is that the way that we create structure and foundation in our life, or the way that the status quo, the way things have always been done up until this point, is in this sign of revolution, of change, of humanity. So there's something about Saturn's movement through the sign of Aquarius with Uranus, the ruler of Aquarius, in the sign of Taurus, that is continuing to ask us to look at how we are continuing then to move forward in life with the structures that create our life, the structures that create the society that we live in, and how can they be evolved? How can they be progressed? This is part of the Saturn relates to our work, and Aquarius relates to technology. And so this is part of this transition that many people are going through, where using technology is going to become more of the norm. Saturn's going to be in Aquarius for the next couple of years, so we'll see this trend continue to progress. But again, going back to the connection between Uranus and Taurus and Saturn and Aquarius, because Aquarius does rule humanity and how we impact humanity. This is saying there's some lessons, that's very much Saturn, that we have to learn about what being a part of humanity is. And so part of that is this shaking us loose from the various, attachments to possessions, attachments to the material world that we've become very comfortable in, that are having a massive effect, not only on, our own personal lives, perhaps in a financial way, in the sense that, we may not be able to live the same way as we had been prior to the COVID pandemic, but also the impact that we're having on the environment, the impact that we're having on the earth, and needing to continue to realize that a lot has to change in relationship to our relationship to the material world. So this Mercury in Taurus squaring that Saturn in Aquarius just is another piece. It's like the mental function is having to, in some ways, kind of grow up a bit, mature, that's a very Saturnian word, in humanitarian ways. And so it's going to require Mercury in Taurus's need to kind of relax a little bit and let go of its tight grip on perhaps, the way that it thinks things should be, the way that it thinks things should be based on the way things always have been. That's very much Taurus. It wants, things to make it feel secure, and it likes routine. It likes the same, but this is saying, we are going to have to look at a bigger picture and how, we are impacting humanity, and how can we in some ways mature and grow so that we can be a part of our the collective impact on humanity. So that's one interpretation of this Mercury squared Saturn energy. That's just happening for a day, but another interpretation might just be we're sometimes Saturn can kind of keep us in a more closed-minded perspective. It can kind of not help us, see all the options out there. It wants to kind of limit and contain, So it just might be a day where we sort of feel like we can't see the bigger picture, and so it's not necessarily a great time for trying to sort of vision and imagine per se. It's more about like just focus on the basics of things, just focus on kind of checking things off your list one at a time, and not really getting too caught up in like having to have the big picture right now. It's more about what can you kind of do in the present in order to sort of sustain. So that's Mercury squaring Saturn. And then when we move forward, the next couple of days, April 30th, we're going to have Mercury meeting up with Uranus. Now, again, Uranus being in the sign of Taurus with Mercury next to it, this is just about bringing new energy into the thoughts, bringing higher consciousness in a way, or higher awareness. Uranus has a very interesting energy of almost like lightning, or something that kind of wakes you up. Sometimes these can be kind of shocks, but ultimately, because Uranus is about progress, it's called it's an evolutionary energy. It's called a transpersonal energy that affects the collective, and it ultimately wants to progress the collective. So this could just be some exciting ideas about how we want to move forward in life, in relationship to finances, in relationship to creativity, in relationship to romance and love and relationships. And just really bringing in, again, this theme of Taurus having to kind of begin to change in certain ways. And this is going to help our thinking a bit. This is going to help us perhaps come up with new ideas of how we can do all these Taurian things in our life, that have more freedom to it. Because that's what Uranus wants. It wants to bring us freedom. It wants to bring us like liberation. And so we could be having ideas and communicating and talking, and it can be very kind of enlivening around these Taurian themes of security and material wealth or finances, creativity, and relationships. Then what's going to happen is that Mercury is going to make a sextile to Neptune, and that's going to happen on May 7th. And Neptune is the energy of spirituality. It's the energy of transcendence. It has to do with compassion, and it too is a transpersonal energy. So it's this kind of feeling that we get of wanting to express compassion and sympathy. And so this will just be a time when the mercurial energy, the thoughts are connecting more to this kind of elevated perspective. And it could be a great time again for creative expression, because the mind is blending with the imagination and with the ability to tune into subtle nuances of Neptune that bring us things such as poetry and music. And then being Mercury in the sign of Taurus, it's like we can ground it into reality. But also just kind of a nice energy for any sort of conversations you might want to have that need to have a healing effect or a healing impact, because that is very much what Neptune is about. We also have Mercury trining Pluto on May 9th, Pluto in Capricorn. This could be a revelatory time. Pluto wants to get to the bottom of things and uncover things and help us kind of release from anything that is not sort of serving a purpose for us. And so this could be a time where we just have some very grounded, honest, practical communication about things in our life that need to be discussed. Pluto also has a very penetrating energy. So if there's anything you need to focus and concentrate on in order to sort of get to the bottom of it and complete it, this energy could be very good for that kind of work. We've got Mercury trining Jupiter on May 10th. And Jupiter is in Capricorn as well. Jupiter is this energy of expanded mind. It has like expanded perspective. It wants to show us possibility, but it's in Capricorn, which is a very grounded energy too. So it wants to like expand and grow our lives, but in a very practical way where we're understanding the plan and how it's going to be executed. So with Mercury trining Jupiter, we can expect to actually feel, some optimism and have some nice communication and exchange with people. But this again will be in a very grounded energy of Earth, Taurus, and Capricorn, which will help us to, not take any big chances without recognizing what is, what needs to be done in order for things to actually occur or to succeed. And then finally, we're going to get Mercury squaring Mars on May 11th. You can see Mars here in Aquarius with Mercury in Taurus. Mercury Mars in square can sometimes bring up challenging communication where, that it's a little impulsive, but in Mercury in Taurus, that is an energy that's going to hold back. It's going to take its time. It's going to respond in a very slow way as far as the communication goes. And really, Aquarius is a pretty unemotional energy because it's air as well. It's fixed. It's very rational. It thinks about things. It's not really so much connected to the emotional realm. So I wouldn't necessarily expect like major sparks flying as far as communication goes, but there just may be some tension because Mars, which is how we take action and how we assert, in Aquarius is saying, we want to assert in progressive ways. We want to assert in new inventive ways, in scientific ways, whereas Mercury in Taurus is a little slow to like get on board, and it kind of again wants what we're used to, and so it might kind of resist. That's very much Taurus energy. It just doesn't want to change too quickly. It takes a lot to get it to change. So Mars can get changed, make change happen, but with Mercury and Taurus, might be a little cognitive dissonance there, where we're going to have to be in some ways kind of convinced that this is really the right action to be taking. But again, Mars in Aquarius can help get the ball rolling and help get things moving. And so finally, we get Mercury moving into the sign of Gemini, and that is also on May 11th. And I will be doing another video about that later. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you appreciated this video on Mercury transiting through the sign of Taurus. And please leave any comments if you have something to say about this transit as well. Also, if you like my channel, I appreciate you subscribing. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook as well.